Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Soundcheck with Ridenour and Robinette. It's our pleasure to have you come tune in to see us once again.
Hey, hey.
And we really appreciate you checking in with us. We got another great episode we've been working hard on, and we're really excited about today. I want to welcome my friend, Keith Ridenour. Hello, Keith Ridenour.
Howdy. What's happening?
And our producer, engineer, Jason Sedoway. Jason, good to see you.
How you doing?
How you doing? How you guys doing? All right, man.
I'm really excited about this episode.
Gonna be fun. Gonna be fun.
Because we got a great guest, which I'll let Keith fill you in on. But first of all, I just want to start by saying I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that we are here and still cooking. We got big plans for 2024, and I could not be any more excited. What do you have going on right now? Tell us a little bit about what you have planned in 2024 as far as your business, and tell us a little bit about what we look forward to.
First of all, I can't even believe it's 2024. But starting out here in 2024, besides our Rockin' podcast, I'm writing a lot of songs for and with my guys in McNulty's Fire. And so we spent 23 kind of ramping up, doing our volume 1, as I'll call it for the moment. And got a lot of great stuff we're planning in 2024. Hopefully we start getting placements. Took us a year to kind of find our zone, our lane, if you will. And we're there now. And we're just starting out with a whole slew of brand new songs. And hopefully we start getting placements.
Well, tell me a little bit about McNulty's Fire. How did it start? Why did you? Let's talk about the band members also who you have playing in the band.
Okay.
And how this came to fruition.
So I had been writing songs or working with artists as well for Add and Sync via Peer Music. And Add and Sync, for those of you who don't know, is you're trying to play songs in TV commercials, internet commercials, gaming, movie trailer, movies themselves, the actual films. So after about 3 or 4 years of working with that, my publisher and I had a little success with it. And it just got so hard to coordinate with the artists or the bands. You'd find a great band. Craig Currier at Peer loved the band, but the band were spread out all over the country and they only recorded once a year. Or you found an artist, but you knew was going to be great for writing for film, TV, etc. But they had a publishing deal or a record company or a manager. And unfortunately, when you're writing for Add and Sync, at least what I'm doing and with whom I'm doing it with, it's got to be songs that you can clear easily. So they can't have a manager trying to negotiate on the song for Subaru. They can't go through the record company or the publishing company because the publisher may say, well, we do that. We don't need you to do that. So finally, I just decided I'm going to do my own band. Yes, we're older. Yes, we're not some hip teen band. But after a year of doing it, we have found a lane that works for us. It's kind of like riff rock, 70s, 80s kind of stuff. And the name came about. My grandparents, their last name was McNulty. And so it's myself, my brother Randy, Big Red. It's Dennis Bliszak from up in New York. And we've had several guest singers so far. We've had Gary Wayne sing a lot of the songs. Steve Murphy has sung a lot of songs. We've had Jim Magnolia. We've had Nate Jackson. We've had Benny Israel. This last batch we've actually got going, it's been Gary and Steve as our featured vocalists. So that's what I'm working on.
Steve Murphy, just to familiarize anybody, from the Alan Parsons project.
He's played with a ton of
plays
people.
Plays with everybody. His resume is pretty big. I just saw him the past weekend.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned Benny Israel.
Yeah.
Who is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, Benny, if you're tuning in, yes, you are amazing. And your wife
Benny.
as well, from the Meatloaf tribute band. And several others.
Dennis plays in the Meatloaf tribute band.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's how we got Benny.
So,
we're looking.
What else did you mention there? You mentioned somebody else too.
Nate Jackson.
Nate Jackson
was a good friend of mine. We toured together. He lives up in Kentucky. When we first started, Nate was doing a lot of the songs. And
this is all original.
All original.
So McNulty's Fire, That's your baby.
Yep.
Let's face it, you're the songwriter more or less.
Well, everybody pitches in, but I get them started.
You get to go.
Yeah.
So the goal is to put the band together, possibly do some original shows.
Mm-hmm.
We know that South Florida, being this is where we are, this is where we broadcast from. Not a lot of places for you to play. Where would you, if you were going to get an opportunity to play somewhere?
Let's say
maybe an opening slot somewhere.
It could definitely be an opening slot. Dependent on what happens with placements. So let's say we get lucky and we have a Chevy truck commercial, and Chevy truck is doing a big promo down here in South Florida. Well, maybe we would go and do a show, or a half-hour set, or if Chevy was promoting a concert, hypothetical. But yeah, it's exciting. All the guys are great. Everybody's having fun, and we're looking for 2024 to be really good.
Okay, so on the other end, so people understand, when you write these songs, you talked about in sync. What's it called?
Add and sync.
Add and sync. So if you did have a song, let's say you have a library of songs, and they actually end up using one. I'm sure all the different circumstances are different.
Right.
Different contracts and agreements are different. But how nice would it be if you did get a snippet? Now, when they do use a snippet on a commercial, it is just literally a snippet, right? It could be literally 5 seconds to
it could be
15, 20 seconds.
Absolutely. You may only hear 8 bars, or it may be the instrumental track and it plays behind the
And if
whole
you did
spot.
score something like that, it would be a nice payday?
It could be, definitely.
It could be.
It could definitely be.
Okay, great.
Versus us just writing songs to put into a library and sell them.
Okay, McNulty's Fire.
McNulty's
So
Fire.
people want to
Rockin' 24, baby.
So somebody wanted to either hear your music or see possibly. Do you have a Facebook page? You have a website you want to share with everybody?
If you just go to McNulty'sFire.com, right, Jay?
That's correct.
McNulty'sFire.com is a website. If you go on there, you'll see, if you just go under music, probably be about 25 songs on there at the moment, or 24, 25.
Okay.
So let's talk about our guest coming on today.
Okay.
Brev Sullivan, local guitar hero. Brev is an amazing musician. He's been all around the world, played with tons of big people, and he endorses many products. So we're excited to bring Brev on today. He'll be later on. He'll be here later on for sure. And just wanted to mention that before we close out. But also before we close out, what's happening with River Down 24?
Well, River Down does maybe 1 or 2 shows a month.
But Southern
It's not
Blood.
as exciting as you would think it would be. But we do have a standing gig we've had at Square Grouper in Jupiter now for 5, 6 years maybe. We do the first Saturday of every month there. And then we played the Hollywood Band Shell every once in a while. Maybe once a month we do the band shell. And that's with Pedro, Howie, and Rodrigo. And so that's still moving. I probably have about 15, 20 shows right now in the books.
That's good for
next
24.
year. Southern Blood. And I got a whole bunch of shows, probably about 60 or 70 shows already booked for next year. So if you're interested in coming and seeing the Southern Blood Band, you can look us up on Facebook. Most of you already know that. If you're friends of ours, or fans of mine or my bands. So you can go to southernbloodband.com and see some dates there as well.
Beautiful.
So business is good. Like you were saying about Brev, we're looking forward to having him.
Yep.
He's awesome. I believe with Lita Ford too there. I think you get a show with Lita Ford. He was in the Tom Cruise movie. He was Tom's guitar player.
Right.
Which was, come on, man. Come on. Somebody better do it. They filmed it downtown.
Rock of Ages.
Yeah.
I lost my mind. I was trying to picture him in the movie.
Dude, I remember years ago when they shut that place down. Oh, you hit the microphone, sorry. When they shut it down, I mean, they shut it down. There was trailers everywhere, all that downtown area. They blocked it off, and yes, that was a great movie. And Brev is a guitar player, and that's I'm sure he's got a story to tell us there.
Can't wait to hear
about that. And
about
then, of course, he's in Hair Days and Van Halen, Van Hagar, tribute band. Several. Oh, you know what he works a lot on? He does the ABBA.
The ABBA thing.
You know, that thing with Crystal, and they're doing really well as well. So we're gonna dig into Brev. He might bring his guitar. Hopefully, it's going to be a great interview for all you local South Floridians, or if you're watching out of the country, it doesn't matter. It's going to be a great episode. So stick around, and we're going to be right back. Boom. Don't leave me hanging.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Sound Check with Ridenour Robinette, my good buddy Jimbo. All right. We are going to talk today about, we're going to keep it in a live performance mode. We have lots of subjects we're going to address over the months coming up, but we thought, let's talk about, and you'll be great at this because being the lead singer frontman, let's talk about stage volume. How does that affect your gig? How does it affect you and the sound man? How does it affect you and the other members of the band? More importantly, how does it affect you and your lead singer?
I'm already aggravated. I'm already aggravated to start talking about it.
You are living this right now. So I'm going to do my little take on it. Then since you go through it every week, I'm going to turn it over to you. So here's what my thing, back when I used to play full-time, my biggest thing was always, obviously, the guitars are too loud. Being a guitar player, what do we do? Well, one time, one of the bands I was in, we opened for, it was either Pat Travers or Rick Derringer, one of the two. Well, we saw one of them side-fired their amps. And we were like,
the hell does that mean?
What's that all about? Well, what happens is, we used to do it at the Button South. So we put our Marshall cabs going this way. So when the sound man was at the board in front of you, the guitar sound was going across the stage. It wasn't hitting the people in the head, particularly in a Marshall cabinet, very directional. So we started side-firing. Then one of those bands, don't remember, we opened for, and then I got this other idea. What they did is they took speakers out of a guitar cab and they put it in monitors in front of them.
Were these so far?
I went, that's interesting. So as time went on, we went down to smaller combo amps. So I would take a speaker out of my combo amp. I have it on a road case behind me. So I was only getting hit in the backside with one 12. I put the other 12 on the floor in a monitor, took the horn out, piece of plywood over the port. So wherever I went, I had my guitar and my vocal monitors on the floor and just one speaker behind me for the band to hear. And from that point out, most of the time, I was always in the mix because I realized that guitar players, not everybody, but a lot of guys like to play loud to get their sound, to get that thing. Well, that was the way I got mine, by taking a speaker out of the combo, put it on the floor in front of me. So anywhere I turned, particularly if it was a small stage, anywhere I turned, I was hearing my guitar. And then I'd have the vocals, and I usually ran my brother's drums in a hi-hat through there at least. All right, now I know you're dying to go off on this. So as a lead singer front person of several bands, let's talk about stage volume.
Well, I can only tell you from my experience.
Of course.
I think everybody that does this for a living, it could be on the highest level. It could be the Taylor Swift, the Bruce Springsteens, the Guns N' Roses, and then you have your local bands who are just playing in bars and clubs. There's a big wide dimension of different types of situations.
Right.
So I can only tell you about my experiences. So I've been doing this a very long time. So for many, many, many years, it was always kind of an issue. But as you get older, it becomes more of an issue. Ears either become more sensitive, you're more sensitive of your surroundings.
Right.
And what's happened over the last, I don't want to say 15, 20 years, is a lot of bands, even smaller bands, club bands, are going to all in-ear systems. Mm-hmm. And for the people that don't know what in-ear system, it's pretty simple. Instead of having your monitors on the floor, they're in your ears. So when we were younger, we would say, okay, we want a kick drum, we want a snare, we want the vocal, we want the guitar, the keyboard, piano, the sax, or we want nothing except me in the monitor. Now you could do that with an in-ear system. And what is the luxury of that? There's no overspill for the sound man. Sound man is getting true signal. Not worried about tube amps, not worried about the bass rig. Yes, you're probably going to deal with live drums unless you have electronic drums. Got to deal with the drums. But a lot of the bands, not just a lot of the bands, but almost all of these touring bands, you don't see amplifiers up there. You ever watch the Grammys? You ever watch any of these, the CMA, any of these shows or even big concerts? What happened to the amplifiers? Now, of course, you're still going to get your 70s, 80s bands. You're going to see your stacks of Marshalls up there, your Orange, or it still happens. Tedeschi trucks, old school.
Yeah.
You're still going to see amplifiers, but a lot of these bands. I just saw Metallica. I don't even see an amplifier anywhere.
Right.
Nowhere. Right. There's a guitar player with a wireless system. Why? It's all in ears. So everybody's different. With me, I'm noticing when you play with guitar players, like I play with some old school tube guys, they know their tone.
Right.
They love their tone.
They want
when
that
a guitar
tone.
player, when it comes to a tone of a guitar, and I play with so many, it's so important to them because if it ain't right, well, things just don't go well. So you got to have your tone. So what happens is sometimes the other people suffer because of that, depending on volume. That's what we're talking about today is the volume. So I had a guitar player, won't say his name. Of course I'm going to say his name. He had his in-ears. He was getting a signal. He was getting a signal from the monitor in front of him, and he's getting a signal from the amplifier behind him. So he has 3 sources, and he still just could not get it right, could not hear it. Why? Because there's 3 sources. You're not going to get exactly what you hear in your ear, what you're hearing behind your ear in front of you. So it's real, it gets complicated. Plus, a lot of the older guys are starting to lose their hearing.
Yeah.
So what you hear in that monitor, the guy next to you is not going to hear the same thing. Same thing with the sound man. We'll have another episode on production and sound systems.
Right.
The sound guy out in front of you, that old cranky sound guy that's been doing it for 50, 60 years, right? He doesn't hear what he heard when he was 25 now. You know, I'm not saying all of them are old and cranky. So
it's a joke.
Please, yeah, it's a joke. I'm just saying these guys have been doing it for years and years and years. They don't hear what they heard 20 years ago. They're hearing something different. So there's that fine line. So at the end of the day, because I'm fortunate enough to run my business, the guys I all work with are all professionals. They're all great. I got one guy who uses a small little black star. Just absolute magic. Has a couple pedals. It's wonderful. Hits a chord. It's just like, it just blends in. Then you got another guy that likes meat and potatoes. He's got that combo Marshall JCM crunchy, but you just got to respect the guys around you. You got to remember, it's not about you. It's about the music. It's about the band. And sometimes you'll get a guy who just, is so focused on what he's doing. Sometimes they don't hear what's going on around them. But normally if you get good band members, people that are professional, they know how to work with you. And the in-ear systems are fantastic because really, at the end of the day, if you got an in-ear system, you choose what you want to hear.
Right.
We don't always, over the years past, we don't have that choice. Also, when you have an in-ear system, you can go anywhere on the stage and hear the same thing.
It's
right
funny.
Now, my guitar player, Greg, he uses the in-ears, but he doesn't leave the front of that amp too much. Every once in a while, I'll go a little bit to the right.
Well, there's something about that air pushing out, those speakers that you get used to it. I remember the first time I used in-ears, probably maybe 2007. And I was just like, what? But we had to use them because we were the middle act on a little tour and the main act, no monitors on stage. So I was so used to getting the kick drum and everything come through because that's what I like when I'm playing. Nothing, no monitors. And the other subtlety to that is if you're the first or middle act, you're not going to get, at least what happened with me, you didn't get the same time at getting a sound check. So you're putting these things in your ears that you're not used to, and you're basically getting all vocals because there's no vocal monitors. You're still hearing what's on stage. So my first experience was not great for me, only because I wasn't used to it. I used to try to stand by the big PA speakers, to try to just feel the groove more because I wasn't hearing anything.
Well, that's the downside.
That's the downside. System. But I'm talking 2007. Yeah. Today, man, it has just come so far. I mean, you can get a great mix on your in-ears.
You can, but it's also, it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here.
Well, you want to get them molded correctly.
Well, that's true.
In your ears,
but still, you don't hear this around. You don't hear the crowd as much.
Right.
You're not getting that energy, that vibe. You got to just do it and do it over and over to get used to it.
Yeah.
There's a gig that we do where no longer do you bring amplifiers. You don't have a choice. So if you want to get paid, you want to play in front of thousands of people, this is the way that they run their system. It's all in ears.
Yeah.
So there's one band, Shane Duncan, that's been doing it for years. I talk to Shane all the time. What they do is they simply bring a box to their gig. That's their rig.
Yep.
The box has all their in-ear system. Everything's already pre-programmed. You're just sending a signal to the house. I said, "Oh my God, you guys got a sound check?" Because we don't sound check. We don't. We plug in and we go, and it's the same every time. Something to say about that. I'm just talking about cover bands, by the way. This is a local cover band.
Well, to your point, though, years ago when my wife and I owned Ridenour Recording and Rehearsal, we built on a big showcase room, event room, if you will. We had Ricky Martin there at the height of Vita Loca. And I was in the studio recording somebody, and I knew they were setting up the whole day, and I'm thinking, wow, I don't hear anything yet. So we took a break, and I asked my wife, I said, what are they doing? She said, I don't know. They've been over there. They brought a big console in, but I don't hear anything. So I went over, I opened the door, and I hear the drums and the percussionist. I don't hear anything else because the bass player, the guitar player,
keyboards,
everybody was direct and on in-ears, and I saw all these packs. This was like the late 90s, I guess it was, or maybe 2000, but I saw all these packs, and that was my first in-ears. Never heard of that before. So while they rehearsed, you heard nothing through the wall except the drummer and the percussionist, and that was
Eric DeBach, my dear friend Eric, who's a local rock star and private stock band. He had Kansas at his studio. He had an amazing studio behind the Button South. He had it for years there.
I remember. Actually, I remember
Johnny Depp
that.
played there. Yep. The reunions that were there. A bunch of bands played there. Kansas was there. I guess he leased it out to them, and they said the same thing. He said they were all in ears. Like you go in there, you could talk over because they're all in ears. So it's the wave of the future. Everybody's doing it. Not everybody, but a lot of bands are doing it. Some of them are really successful with it. There's a few bands that are playing locally that do all ears. There's just something about it. Yeah, it sounds amazing coming out of the front of house. But you're not getting that nuts and bolts, man. You
gotta find a place in your head where you accept it and start to love it. Like
that's exactly right.
Because there are going to be people, men, women, who just will never do it. They may have in-ears, but they got to have the amp on stage. They got to feel that energy.
I never saw. I know this is a weird thing. I never saw Eddie Vedder with the ears. He's got tons of monitors around him.
Yeah,
there's many pros that just they don't care for him.
I think there's a lot of people that aren't going to do it. Like years ago, we also had Steve Winwood at the studio around the same time.
Oh my God, I love.
You heard the whole band. They weren't on in-ears, and their vocals were crazy.
Well, I can tell you, see this right here? These are my girls right here.
Right?
See that right there? They don't like loud music. They don't even come to my shows.
Oh.
They have not been to one of my shows. Okay. Oh, you didn't get that? There's them at Disney World. And they remind me that I'm an outstanding achievement in fatherhood.
That's nice.
Won't come to any of my shows because it's too loud.
Yep.
They don't want to hear it.
Yep.
You know what my oldest told me? Daddy, I can't. It gets me all rattled up. I don't like that loud music. Yep. So that's my point exactly. Can't make everybody happy.
Stage volume. We all deal with it.
And yes. Oh, by the way, our guest is coming up soon, so don't go anywhere. But also, we definitely want you to put any questions that you have, any guests that you want to have on our show. If you're interested in sponsoring our show, or being part of what we do here, you're more than welcome to leave us a message. We also want you to subscribe. So if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, that would be great. We can really embrace that. We love to get the hits, baby.
Any topics you'd like to hear us talk about, along with the guests that come on, all very welcome. All very welcome. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Brev.
Hey, everybody. Here we are. Welcome. Sound check with Ridenour and Robinette. Jason Sedoui, our editor, producer, and what else do you do, Jason? Exactly.
I get lunch.
And we have our guests here with us. Everybody, Brev Sullivan. How about Brev? Brev, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy, for coming down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're really excited about having you here. There's a lot of questions that people have been calling me and texting me to ask you, but let's just start from the beginning. First of all, everybody that's tuning in knows that you're the guitar guy. You're currently from Miami. You've been playing in town for a very long time. I known you from quite a few years ago. Tell us a little bit where you're from, where you were born, how you ended up in Miami, and where the ball started rolling.
Sure. Born in Hollywood. Then my pop had a house in Miami that he had several houses, he had several properties. And we ended up moving down there, and we just ended up staying there because he was a resident musician at the Unitarian Church, Universalist Unitarian Church, which was not a church for church music, but it was a haven for young musicians from the University of Miami, where they cut their teeth before they went off and made money. So we ended up living down there for years, and here I am, working back up in Hollywood and Fort Lauderdale.
But you were born in Hollywood?
Born in Hollywood.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived there most of my in my young life. Yeah, in Hollywood, up at Johnson Street. And so, just to go back that far, when did you actually start playing guitar? Was it? Because I'm trying to get an idea of when you started playing.
I played trumpet and piano. I didn't start playing till high school, like my senior year. I'm like, I want to play guitar, and I was a late bloomer, and took it to university, and that's where I really learned.
What high school?
Southwest Miami.
Okay, so you didn't go to high school in Hollywood?
No. We were out of there by the time I was 9 or 10. And my dad had to commute, just like we do now, to Fort Lauderdale. He was working at Bubba's, which was a 6-night jazz, 6 nights a week. And then he worked at, which is now a bank, the Rancher. And the union tried to get on him because, he was working all the time. The owner's like, well, you find me a multi-instrumentist that can play sax, trumpet, flute, kubasa, whatever else, then, we'll do it by your rules. But that was it.
Wow.
And he had a habit of taking rooms where nobody would show up on a Monday night. And then all of a sudden everybody would show up. In fact, he was working the Eden Rock one gig. And remember, this is back in the days of Bobby Economo and Jaco Pastorius, who he mentored, before with the drama and the drugs that you hear Jaco so associated with. He was mentoring them, like just out of high school, doing all this jazz music. So he says one night he comes in to his gig, and in the first set, all these guys were coming from their gigs in tuxes, after their top 40 gigs to listen to Ira and his jazz. So guy says, listen, Ira, you got to come and talk to my wife. He says, what's up? So he gets on the phone and he says, Ira, I know Bobby's there. Is he with a girl? Is he with a woman? Just tell me, be honest. He's like, what are you talking about? He's here, listens to the music. So all these great...
Ira being your dad, by the way, share with our friends.
Ira Sullivan was my father, multi-instrumentalist. He migrated from Chicago with us kids, and then he became known as a jazz musician down here. But because of our cosmopolitan vibe down in Miami, there's no musical prejudice. Latin, jazz, rock, whatever. He got his own sound. But this story about the music being so wonderful night after night on an off night, because they're creating, instead of having to work a gig where it's top 40 or play what the club owner wants, was where the musicians wanted to go and they're attracted. Right. So that's why the story, it was a true story. The woman thinking her husband's out having an affair and said he's listening to this music, along with 50 other guys.
Right.
Trombonists who are amazing.
So that's where it started.
That's where he
started. Ira got you going because you saw what he was doing. Obviously, you got into trumpet when you were in high school, but then you picked up the guitar.
Right.
So once you got that guitar going.
I had a Palmer guitar, by the way. First guitar ever.
Oh, no kidding.
First, it was one of the crazy rocket shapes with like a BC.
That was your first guitar?
Yes.
That's really funny.
Yes.
Because Tropical, who sold the Palmers, was down in South Miami. Right?
I don't remember if that's where it was.
But I remember that's how we got involved with Palmer, through Tropical Music, who really sold all over South America.
Yeah.
That's what their place was. I don't think they did domestic, but
Palmer
that's
guitars.
interesting. So you went to University of Miami then?
No, I taught there, but I went to Miami-Dade.
Okay.
So, but I never finished school. I just got out there and started teaching and gigging right away, and that was it. But I got to teach at U of M, go figure.
Right. Yeah. That says a lot right there. I didn't go here, but I taught here.
Yeah.
That's funny. I first played clarinet in second grade and bugle in the marching band before I got to the guitar.
Dude, if you can get me a picture of that,
Me on clarinet
please.
at
If I
St.
see you
Elizabeth.
playing a bugle with the outfit on, was it the marching band?
Yep, my brother played the marching snare drum, and I played the bugle.
Oh yeah. I got to get a picture of that. We're gonna need that for
The marching
ball busing.
band is an amazing foundation.
That's right. That's what I did. I
Making a lot
did
of
4
noise.
years at.
You know,
3.5.
I went to Catholic school for 9 years, no music at all. But when I was 13 and my brother was 10, we started getting paid to play.
Yeah.
So by the time I went to public school, because my parents couldn't afford to keep all three of us in Catholic school, it was too much money, I took every music course possible. So I joined the marching band. The only thing left to play was the tuba. I went, I'll take it. Okay. I was already playing in the band, you know.
Of course.
10th grade, I tried to do the tuba, couldn't read a lick, but I would remember the valves. And I had a all-state guy next to me. He would tell me the valves when it came to a test. But I got to just tell one fast, funny story, and then we're going back to your first band. So, you know, if you play the tuba, you play the sousaphone. Okay? Now, my hair was out to here then. Okay? I had the big fluffy hat on. Okay? I was in 10th grade. And back then, this was 1973 maybe, all the mouthpieces, you just went in, took a mouthpiece, washed it, and put it in. So nobody had their own mouthpiece or anything, at least not at the school I went to. So we're out there. I got the mouthpiece in. We're doing the high steps. We're Boca High. I'll never forget it. I went to Deerfield. So we're out there. We're high stepping. I'm doing the turns with the horn. All of a sudden, the mouthpiece goes, whing! I didn't know it at the moment because I really wasn't playing it. You know, I was just doing the dance. Long story short, all of a sudden, halftime's over. I see the drum major from Boca running over.
With the mouthpiece in her hand.
You know, the sousaphone guys sit all the way at the top. And our band director is from South Carolina. And all I remember hearing was this, Ridenour, this yours. And he had to show it to everybody. So I kind of got off those kind of instruments after that.
You could play the tube on it is so big you could play without a mouthpiece if you need to.
It was just so funny. I was so worried about doing the steps that when the thing went out, I didn't even recognize it at first until I turned back around.
That's marching band. After 20 times around the block, you're not really playing anymore. You're just holding on.
Exactly.
Dude, that was a drum and bugle corps. They're talking about marching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I remember marching over the Deerfield Beach Bridge once in the drum and bugle corps.
You did marching band?
Yes.
Oh, that's right. You were in.
Yes,
right.
and we did the New Year's Day parade in Miami, and after about 50 times of playing that song, you're just, it's cold.
Yeah.
And this is hurting my lip. Let's just get this over.
Because you're playing the same tune
Trumpet.
over.
Trumpet.
So how did so you started playing guitar? So tell us a little bit about your first band, like who you were playing with. What time was that around? Was that in the 80s, early 80s?
Yeah, and the thing is with my friends, all they're starting to go on dates and meet girls. I'm like, well, the trumpet's not, maybe the jazz era, that was the thing, the Frank Sinatra crooner era, but now it's guitar. So I got the good chops. Somehow managed to finagle my way into jazz band as a guitar player, and I had no business being there because I couldn't read as well. But the teacher appreciated the effort, so I got in there. And then we had a little cover band called Emerald City, and all my friends were in the band, whatever. But I got frustrated because the band would learn 10 songs, and I'd learn another 100. I go, hey, you do this, and I'm showing the keyboard player how to play the parts, and I'm showing the bass player, my friend, he was just a guitar player, and so I got frustrated with that, and eventually that ended. And as university was starting, I was getting more serious about jazz and that type of thing. So that was probably a year and a half of, being 19 or 20, and you know what the inside of a bar looks like and smells like, and watching people go crazy. And when you're a kid, it's like, when you see people and
you're
behaving,
like a sponge. You're just like,
you see people behaving like that, and you're just in a band. That's the only reason that's how you grow up fast. If you didn't have parents, bust out parents, or your guardians were on the up and up. Yeah, that was the first time you saw that kind of thing.
So you started teaching at the University of Miami at that point?
No, that's recent.
Okay.
When my guitar teacher Simon Salz, who we lost when he was really young, he was quite the accomplished guitarist in Miami, classical jazz. Mm-hmm. He published a book of wedding songs, and him and his wife Sarah ran what we call the University of Miami Young Musicians Camp. Now, my dad did this back in the 70s with Jerry Coker, jazz legend. But they did this young musicians camp, which is like no other camp. It's not like, hey, your kids are going to be here for 2 weeks and we're going to watch them while they're just not with you. It was a little soft intro into kids that are going to go into university in a couple of years. You're going to be competing with geniuses, the little Led Zeppelin. I can play Stairway to Heaven. Hey, isn't my kid good? Try playing Miles Davis at 14. That's the
Paganini.
kid. Right. Those are the kids who you're going to be up against. So this camp prepared them for that. You had classical, you had improv, you had jazz. I got to teach a little bit of what I do at the School of Rock, a little looser, goosier than the jazz. And then you had your master's jazz. And my dad was part of that too. And then I met the head of the guitar department, Brian Russell, who invited me to teach what you call the overflow. Mitch also teaches. You have the overflow of students, so it's adjunct teaching. But the accreditation for playing rock and learning rock doesn't exist, but there it does.
That's cool.
If you do your theory and you do your scales and you don't want to get caught up in the jazz culture, which can be destructive, just as destructive as any other scene, because there's so many rules. You can go there, and I think the music department has 65% of the funding. So that's an amazing thing to be part of. And somebody who does rock for a living can go there and teach kids and be accountable for it. Hey, this is my teacher. They taught me the right way. The wrong way.
Right.
That was a great job.
That's great.
But I don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Kind of like Belmont, I guess, in Nashville. Belmont's a music business school, but so many people there are really accomplished songwriters. Jody Marr, I think, may still teach up there.
Right.
And songwriters, and they're just immersed in music every day, every facet of it.
Right. Yeah, the old way doesn't work anymore. Hey kids, this is your piano lesson. Here's your guitar lesson. What good does that do me? I'm not gigging,
Right.
Or writing.
It's funny, when I was at Marquis, I started doing songwriting lessons with some kids, and it was really accidental. Somebody's mom was out front, and they really want to learn songwriting, and I really wasn't doing that. And I said, well, let's get together for an hour, and I'll see where they're at. And it kind of became a thing. And of course, I went online, how to teach songwriting, this and that, and everything I read, I was like, well, that's definitely not going to work for me. I mean, I am who I am, good or bad. This is what I do. And it was interesting. I got so much out of it. You have a young boy or girl come in, they're 13, 14 years old. They got this idea for a song, and they have a little bit of a chorus. They're playing, 1-5-4, or 1-3-4, 5, flat 7, whatever it is. They don't know what it is. They have no idea. You got a melody? Well, I only have these couple things. And all of a sudden, by the end of the hour, we have a form, we have a beginning, we have an ending, and you just see they're on fire. They light up. I imagine the same thing was true for you, maybe teaching some of the guitar kids.
I think that sounds like what my father would do with people, because I think songwriting is something you have or you don't. And then when people at a young age come and interact with somebody like yourself, and they're able to take that, it's like a beam of light. And that's the term he would use it. They'd be playing trumpet, and they'd have trouble with the tree. Like, focus your air like it's a beam of light going through the horn. And then they'd come back and resonate later, or bloviate. Ira, you helped me so much. It wasn't the theory and my teacher made me do this. It was something that was realistic and useful in real life. But with the songwriting you're talking about, that's something I wish I'd had that when I was younger, because you get in a band, we're gonna do it like this, and we're gonna hang out. I wish somebody had told me that when I was younger. Because
I wish somebody would have told me too. I mean, I remember
those are the pitfalls.
My brother and I recorded our first 45 in Mike Panera's 8-track studio when he was 14, I was 17. We had a clue what we were doing, but we wrote songs. I wish somebody would have told me when I was a young kid, okay, when you do lyrics, think about this. Or any of those really important little things that you're waiting for the light to go off. Nothing,
Yeah.
A lot of kids, they want to learn how to play, Smoke on the Water or a more current song or a Taylor Swift song, they're not going to come in and say, "Hey, by the way, I got a great idea for a song."
Never.
So if you have that at a young age, it's a good start.
Yeah, I've had some young kids. Here's the interesting things. Down here in South Florida, I'd say 95% of the songwriting students that I worked with, I wound up writing with them, and most of them moved to Nashville, and most of them were females.
Right.
I can't tell you how many people that I've been booking over the years that decided. I mean, I could tell you name at least a half a dozen, even in the last couple of years. Matter of fact, I just got a text from Alyssa. Alyssa's mom saying we're following up my kid up to Nashville. It's not. I mean, I've heard it several times.
We have a definitive line: Florida working musician, Nashville songwriter, and you can. I saw that. I went there just for one NAMM, and I saw it one night just at a rooftop party. Yeah, we're writing this. I'm like, I've never heard that anybody talk about writing anything down here.
Yes,
unless you're with a specific.
You know what?
Group.
I don't know. It could be wrong, but there's just not a market. There's not, like, even if I put together, or if anyone put together a great band, you also got to think about, okay, now where are we going to sow our roots? Where are we going to go play?
Well,
people are not as open down here, either because of immigration or whatever it is, to have an open ear to listen to it. And where would they go?
Well, here's the thing about down here. Down here, there's a million places to play. A million. In Nashville, forget about music, or forget about
Music
downtown.
Row, right?
Anywhere outside of Nashville, you go to Franklin, Brentwood. We had the studio in Murfreesboro, which we built there because MTSU is a music college, is right there. There's no places to play. Everybody's doing more original there. Okay, unless you're downtown at some of the clubs downtown. Yes, that's all covers. They're interchangeable guys. But yeah, down here back in the 80s, I think there was more of a market for original bands, but I think that totally went away.
Well, I know that we want to get right into the good stuff.
Yep.
Let's get into the dirty stuff.
The dirty stuff.
Okay, so when you start playing, this is what some of my friends or your fans have been texting me. So let's get right to the bands and knock them right down. So in the 80s, what was one of the first bands you had that were working steady, that were making noise in the cover tune world?
Yeah, that band was Emerald City.
Okay, Emerald City. And I'm guessing you got it because I'm from Hollywood. I know where Emerald City is. Is that where you got it from, or no?
Just from the Wizard of Oz. I thought, hey, this is cool, And
okay, so how long did that last you?
Just a year, probably a year.
Okay, so then what was the next one?
The next one was an original band. That was a trio, Rumpelstiltskin.
No kidding.
Yeah.
What years were that? In the 80s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, we're talking 90s now, because at that
Why do I
point,
know that name?
Well, here's the thing. At the time, we would see bands like Gypsy Queen or whatever. I go, well, I love the sound, but they're playing Led Zeppelin, and I'm like, that's old. I don't want to do that. And nobody's playing Joe Satriani or Van Halen except for a couple people. Everybody's playing Guns N' Roses. I didn't like any of that. So the drummer sang, and the bass player and I just were technical. It was a combination of Triumph, Rush, Progressive. Nobody wanted that. We'd go in with a huge drum kit and the thing, and they're like, you got to have a lead vocalist. And so that lasted a few years.
I know that name.
Wrote a lot of great music, but it didn't go anywhere and we didn't want a front man. We were a trio.
And let's see, Rumpelstiltskin, that name definitely rings a bell. So what about let's talk about the guitar contest. The guitar.
Oh, yeah.
What was that called? Guitar?
There was a couple of them. I remember there's one at where Jimmy Fiano took everything. Then there was one at the Button South, and Randy Jackson from Zebo was one of the judges.
Okay.
And I remember playing that contest, and I had worked again. I was going in there. I wasn't trying to be the fastest shredder, which was I'm like, I wrote a really cool boogie song called The Flag Raiser, which I have yet to release. I'm going to re-release it. And I got second, I think. And,
who was in it? Name some of the names that were.
I'm trying to remember.
Was Steven in it? Adam Cole?
Steven says he remembers
Fiano
it. Adam Cole
it.
wasn't in it. Adam Cole wasn't in it. Those cats were in the audience.
I'm trying to think of some of the guitar heroes who played way back then.
And so I don't remember anybody there was one at the Sunrise Musical Theater, and Dave Scott was the other guy.
Tough luck guy.
And I had heard Dave Scott. That guy sounds like the way I want to play. He sounds like the LA chop monster. I didn't like what I was hearing down here. I mean, you could play the blues, whatever, great. You've heard a million guys. I want to do that. So we got up in the contest. also backstage was your jazz guitar player that hit it big right now. Everybody knows him. I'll come back to that. Kreisberg. And we're waiting for our round at Kreisberg. I'm like, man, this is taking so long. Hey, man, let's play some jazz. So we're back there playing Girl from Ipanema and shredding. So I come up against the guy and I'm like, Dave Scott. Oh my God, here we go. This guy's a monster. So we go up on the stage and we're playing Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers. And, he gets 8 measures and I get 8 measures. So he does his thing and I'm like, Dave. So I do this thing where I seen Joe Satriani and Steve Vai cross over and the whole guitar becomes just like a piano. And you just mute it right here. And whatever you think, you can do it, which is how I still do this today. So we come to Beer Drinkers and same old licks that everybody does. And all of a sudden, the last part, I go, and I won that round. And I go back, I go, hey, Dave, dude, you're such a huge influence, as far as becoming a better musician, better, executioner. And he's like, dude, good job. You just smoked me, whatever, But that was the weirdest thing where you're looking at your heroes on stage. And next thing you are on stage with them. Right. And then next thing, they're giving you a compliment, which never happens, you don't do that. It's, real musicians, you might go, otherwise you look like them like a chump, you don't say that, especially in the jazz world, the guy and the cymbals, he's the leader. It's like, yeah, man, that's about all you're going to get.
Yeah.
Now, hey, you sound great. Like, you don't really mean
Dave
that.
Scott's going to hear this. Dave, here, you got a compliment. So and he's still crushing up there too.
Dave knows this because Dave at the time, he was 16 or 17, was already playing beyond, anybody for that level, but he also went on to achieve a sound and a technique that shows, when you're back at that level back then, there's many.
He played with David Shelley.
When he was playing David Shelley and my brother was playing with him, I remember it might have been David, maybe David's last show at the Funky Biscuit. And Dave did this solo at the end of one of the songs. And I was speechless. The way, and you know what it is? He's a great guitarist, he's a great musician, great guy. But it's also he knows how to build that solo. And the band is like a freight train as it's building. And he gets to the end of it. And it's not only his playing, it's also his facial expressions that he's engaging the audience. It's like, come on, we're almost there. Yeah. We're almost there. The band's with him. He's with it. He's ripping. And that is a gift. I try to tell people all the time, when you're playing, you're doing that kind of stuff. When Neil Schon used to do the Steve Perry melody for his first solo, he would always shred at the end. And when I would record with guys, they want to shred in the beginning. Why don't you wait and let the song build somewhere? But it's just experience, Dave has that experience. Yeah. And I remember one of the last times I saw those guys play, I was just like, man, he just killed that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why Neil Schon's on the radio and why he's in that band, Dave Scott.
Someone told me, who was it? One of my guys said that you were a DJ.
I was.
At Metro 107.
Yeah.
Or I'm sure several other places. But that's where they met you, Metro 107.
Yeah, at the time. So what I said earlier about Gypsy Queen, with all due respect, I love watching the girls. I love watching, but I was thinking, I got to reach for something more than just playing Led Zeppelin covers. So I wasn't interested in being in the band. And I again, remember this thing about the behavior? It had a big impact on me watching musicians, how they conducted themselves. I'm like, I'd see these guys drinking and try to pick up girls. And I was serious. I was like the geek. Like, I don't want to do any of that. And I wasn't interested. And it wasn't making enough money for the effort. Right. So I made a lot of coin and socked it away and paid for my school with that, And
DJing, you mean?
DJing. And
where did you DJ at? I mean, interrupt you.
It was at Metro, and then I ended up DJing at another place called CJ's, which is where I got the feel for pop music and how to get people to move. And I just loved it. And I think also I like being by myself. At the time, I was like the cat who hated people. Like first band I was in, hey man, you got it. I'm like, which is why we have the gamer kids today playing guitar in their house. They have this mad skill set, but try to be in a band and deal with people like a team. Forget it.
We all know that. Well, even as a grown adult.
Probably me just continue the story of another 30 seconds. But there was a couple bands that touched me, and that was Roulette with Roger. And I saw Roger sing. I was like, you know, White Snake, long hair.
Right.
And I say, hey, can I sit in with you guys? And this is my thing, you know. And he'd be like, man, that DJ's pretty good. You know, we're playing Van Halen, whatever. Again, also, you know how it is, what you just said about guitar players. They only want to play one thing. Me. Van Halen is the band. And maybe some Rush or something, you know. That's like what nobody wants to play or make money at. So years later, I'm playing with Cindy, United State of Rock. Cindy and Crystal and I had a little band. And we're playing the Lulu's circuit. And Roger comes in, which I didn't recognize because he's got a hat on like you have right now and hair's cut back. And Cindy goes, hey, a friend of mine wants to sit in. And I hadn't seen Roger since then. Oh, wow. So we come up. He's like, hey, let's do some Van Halen. And he's all of a sudden, this guy's moving and doing the Van Halen. And I'm like, hey, guys, sings really good. And we're doing, he's like, man, that guitar player sounds pretty good. I'm like, I know this guy.
No, you got to do the Southern accent. You did it pretty close, though.
Yeah, but
that's him, man.
Yeah, that was. I'm like, and the next thing I know, we're doing a little band together, the Roger Ramsey band. But
oh my God! Wait till Roger hears that one.
We jumped past a couple bands. I have to interject here. You're going to ask about bands. I really wasn't ever in any bands. I told you about the little band I was in for a while, and then Original. I wasn't interested in hanging out with these dudes or playing. It was too much, how much heartache and too much difficulty, and nobody had any business savvy.
Right.
Speed up to Ludwig. Hey man, I'm gonna do this 80s tribute. And I'm like, I didn't really want to do it. I'm like, I hate that stuff. I hate Poison. I hate Bon Jovi. I'm like, but if I say no, I'm gonna regret it. I'm on the phone. And I like to, I'm asking you first, which means I better take this as like 30 other guys right now.
Right.
Which was the Lazy Bones thing.
And here we are.
Right, the Lazy Bones thing. Yeah. So you met up with Lud, who was in, what was the band he was in forever, that band?
The
downtown.
Druids.
The Druids.
Yeah, and I'd known him since university now.
So you took off with Lazy Bones. And was that with Joe too?
With Joe too.
With Joe and Wani?
And Wani.
Okay, so that lasted, what, a couple of years before?
I was in that band from 2010, 11 was when his rehearsals and reception started to about 2014.
I think one of the first shows you did might have been
the first show.
One of my shows.
First official public show. Anything else?
Cheers. What was that for? Was that for Jeffrey Reeves?
No, it was a Button South thing.
Oh, it's a reunion.
Reunion.
Yeah. So that kicked out. So let's talk about the how you got into the Rock of Ages. How the opportunity came. And who presented you with that? Would you get a phone call? Did you get an email?
That was literally from a long friend from university again, from Ali Newhoff, who was one of the original movers and shakers that I knew. You know, she would talk to me every few years and say, I'm doing this. I'm house sitting for Yngwie, you know. And then one day she walks into one of my gigs and she's got some CDs. She's like, oh, I'm the distribution warehouse manager for some sort of Warner Brothers records. She gave me a Madonna CD. I have to this day because, you know, that's some hits on there. And the Immaculate Collection, very famous CD. Then didn't see her for years. And one day she calls me, hey, I need an 80s looking rocker. Go here, would you sign up to audition for this movie with Tom Cruise? I'm like, okay, no problem. Now, the Bones had been playing out several gigs, but was still in its infancy at that point. But we had been playing several gigs, and it was an audition where I went in, and I went in with this Wani and Ludwig. She says, "Bring your band. You didn't just only by yourself." And we all ran down, pour some sugar on me or something like that, air drumming, air guitaring, whatever. And my mom had made these really wild custom jeans. Like I took a pair of jeans and, you know, shredded them up, and she painted this eagle on them. I still have them, and wore the eyeliner and the headband and everything. And I just went in there. I'm like, this is like another day at work at Lazy Bones. And then I got the call back. They said, hey, they want to work with you.
And was this down in Miami?
This is down in Miami. They were doing auditions. I think there was a call back to read and speak, which I didn't get. You know, so I remember a lot of time passes between these callbacks, and these. Hey, they want to see you, but it happens very quickly. It's not, hey, we want to talk to you. It's like, hey, can you be here in an hour?
Right.
Can you be here in half an hour? Yeah, no problem. Coffee.
Gotta drop everything and go.
Go, and then and then there it is. But Ali said, make sure you don't talk about anything. You know, they're discussing money and contracts and whatever. And at one point, I did meet the other musicians who are going to be in the band. And each one of them felt the same. They were all very quiet, but very experienced, seasoned touring musicians. Like this guy's done the road. This guy's done the play. One of them was Dan Wills. He's the son of the drummer from Foreigner, or bass player in Foreigner. And everybody's got something in common, which is they all love music and kind of a fanboy, but professional,
Right.
But very quiet. And that's why they picked us. And even then, even the other guitar player, who was the lead guitar player, said, yeah, I thought you guys would be off on the tour bus with Tom Cruise, and I didn't call me. But it's just that you're waiting for that call from us to come in. And by this time now, the guys in the band knew, but we kept it under wraps because, lo and behold, your scene could be shot, and you never make the film. So
so don't go talk about it.
You just told everybody, yeah, I'm in the best scene, and then you don't make it. So we kept it quiet till it happened. But there was some surreal moments in there, how it all happened leading up to when it finally happened. But then after a while,
was there any actual shooting with the whole band with Tom?
Yeah.
At the same time, right? So it wasn't they were just cutting in and out.
Yeah, I was going to say after the initial surreal moments of going through the process of getting in there, once you're around these A-listers and it's just like going a day at work. You get used to it.
Yeah.
You're doing your thing. You're there to be you. Like I'm not some actor or something, and just do your thing and get it done.
Right. Yeah. That's a cool gig. It reminds me when you're talking about waiting for the callback. It's like in Nashville when you get a song put on hold.
Oh yeah.
Well, here's the deal. Let's say so-and-so at this label puts your song on hold. Right away, it happened to me. Right away, I wanted to tell everybody I knew. Yeah. I wanted to call it. Hey, I got to look. Little did I know, but they told me right away, don't go start telling everybody. Because just because you got it on hold doesn't mean they're actually going to put it on the record. So, you might get a song on hold. I mean, the first thing I ever got put on hold, a quick example is, I think it was for Jody Messina. It's one of the first songs we wrote when I moved there. I was like, everybody told me 10 years before anything happens. And it was like a couple of years. I was like, oh my God. I was like flipped out. Song player called me. So I'm excited. I want to, tell everybody. Don't tell anybody. Of course, I told my wife, kids, but that was it. So what happens 2 weeks later? We get a call from, I think it was Curb, the lady who's the head of the A&R department, who put the song on hold, is no longer with the company. So there goes the song, because now whoever comes in can find their own song. Had I started ranting and raving about it, you know what I mean?
Man, that was it.
Happened to me with Lilo and Stitch, too. Had a song in the Lilo and Stitch movie for a year. Guy from Disney calls us, congratulations, we're trying to figure out if Faith Hill's going to do it or the Disney singers. I started telling everybody.
Oh, no. Big mistake.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
Winona Judd does an Elvis song, and part of her arrangement, from what I was told, she has to do a video at the end of the movie. Well, the whole movie was Elvis songs except my song and another song. Okay, what does that mean? Well, we don't know yet. 2 weeks go by, I get a call from Jimmy Einer. Dude, I owe you. I go, what happened?
Oh, worst.
According to everybody at the time, an animated film for kids could only run so long.
Sure.
And with Winona doing the video, it went to here. So that means they got rid of our song and the other person's song. Dude, I was already planning on moving to the next zip code. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Before we go to break, real quick, the projects you have going on right now that actively are rolling and making money and you're gigging right now are?
Van Halen, Best of Both Worlds.
Best of Both Worlds, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
And that's with Kenny and Crystal and Monaco, right?
Gary Morocco.
Gary Morocco. Same thing, Monaco. Morocco.
You were close, had an M.
Okay, keep going. Yeah,
Rock of ABBA.
Rock of ABBA.
Yeah. And that's with Jill Miner and Rena Miranda on lead vocals, Crystal on bass, myself on keys and guitar, and Eddie Gressley on drums and vocals. 5-way vocals, all live. That's one thing about Rock of ABBA. It's been a lot of fun because the culture down here, again, has been accustomed to some acts doing a dance to the track. And we wanted to do the ABBA Gold era, which is a completely live rock band. It sounded nothing like the disco, but of course, you know, nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear Honey, Honey.
Right.
Until recently. Now the band's starting to resonate with people because they just like a good live band.
Right.
You know, tracks. And that seems to be serving us well. And then during the pandemic, everybody had to reinvent themselves. I started singing. So I do a trio now with myself, Crystal and Eddie. And we just do a little bit of everything, all the bands, the Brev Rock Band. And singing and playing guitar is a dream of mine, but I don't have that range that, you know, like the guy from Triumph has, which I'd love to have. So we do our own thing. But again, it's designed to treat you to some guitar chops in a good interactive trio, which is a lot more improv than.
And it's probably really fun too.
Yeah. You could do Summer '69 all your day long but this is the band that gets to do Santana, and this is the band that gets to stretch out and do the Ventures, and then do some metal, and then do some classic rock.
What about Hair Days? Are you still sitting with Hair Days here and there?
I would say I'm first call now. You know,
right.
That band has gone through a process everybody's aware of with the people it has, but I think the band deserves and seems to be taking on a personality and a group of guys that enjoy working with each other and communicating to the audience that we know that they can smell a real band. I think we're getting that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. Okay.
That's cool.
Listen, we're going to take a short break and we're going to turn the guitar on.
That's right. Welcome back to Sound Check with Ridenour Robinette. We're here with our good friend Brev Sullivan, and we are going to talk gear with Brev.
All right.
Brev, what's happening?
Not much, man. Just here with my guitar. And people call this a double neck, but it's a single neck.
Oh, you got to show everybody that.
With 2 fretboards. All right. So anybody ever remember the Chapman stick?
Yes.
Okay. So actually, back to my dad again, Ira Sullivan, he was playing a gig in the 60s. And Emmett Chapman came in, hey, check this out with his invention. And we've heard about people tapping the stick. It's a tapping instrument. It's not something you can pluck, really. But it's not sexy enough. And if you're a guitar player, you have to relearn your theory. This was produced by a young guitarist, a Venezuelan South American guitarist, Felix Martin. And during the pandemic, he opened up this company and made it possible for guitar players who think conventionally, which is just regular tuning, to tap beautiful melodies. And you have this beautiful sound. You know? Or you can do the traditional Stanley Jordan type of stuff like. So anyway, this is a much easier, more portable instrument if you want to tap. And it took me about, a couple of months to rethink my playing so I could tap all my melodies. But if you're an acoustic guitar player, you like that type of sound. It's a very beautiful instrument.
Wow.
You can crank out a distortion too. But anyway, this is significant to me because the fact that when NAMM had been shut down for a while, and we're all familiar with the NAMM show, and companies had to hightail it or never show up again because it destroyed part of the music industry, I saw this company thriving because there's so many solo guitarists that just want to do it. As I mentioned earlier, I just wanted to play guitar on my own. So many solo guitarists, they're occupied their time with learning tapping and some weird technique, and this instrument made it possible. It's actually
they're playing the bottoms on the root
like
chords,
the bass
on
stuff
the bottom,
on
and you're playing
you can
melody
do that
on top.
I had 2 out. This is the first guitar he told me, the first one he manufactured. Let's see, it's number 97. So one of the first that was manufactured with a stereo output. So I can hook this into a bass. I don't have all those effects here, though. I have my Eventide pedal, which does a lot of beautiful shimmering effects. But I can tune one neck, an octave down, and then tap on the other neck. So like. I'm not really warmed up right now. You got to really focus on this one. But yeah, I've done that where I've done the bass tapping and then done tapping.
Where would you use this? Would you use it for your own personal, or are you actually bringing it to a gig?
It's solo. I do solo instrumental stuff, like a acoustic ambient type of thing, you know. I've plugged it into distortion and done some shredding on it, but it doesn't have the same timbre that a regular electric guitar is, and obviously it's very percussive and something. And there's the possibilities are endless though, because you can overlap. You can't do that with 3 or 4 digits.
Right. So you could do octaves if you want.
Once you get going,
yeah,
you can do all that.
Wow.
So, but I'm not doing it justice right now. Just talking, sitting here playing it. You really have to get focused, play it, and I'll break this out. If I'm doing a dinner set, I'll do one set of jazz and smooth R&B, and then I'll break this out second set to give it a different sound.
Right. Okay, cool. And all the tuning is the same, regular standard tuning on both necks?
All the same.
And are the gauges of the strings all the same as well?
Yeah, these are really light strings too. You put heavy strings on there wouldn't serve it to be be trying to coax sustain out of a simple small body
I have
guitar.
seen some acoustic players. I wish I could remember. It was a while ago, where they do that thing where they're trying to do tapping and then they're beating on the
It's taken off. If you look on social media, you're going to find not only this type of playing, but people doing what you're talking about. People grabbing for 8-string guitar and tapping it. It's really popular. But good question. Where are you going to do it?
Right.
It's certainly not the next gig. Like, what is that?
No, I think I think if you're having like maybe a happy hour, you're having a cocktail hour at a wedding, and you just want that little bit in the background, jazzy, real way in the background. I think it sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. I had no idea when I first saw it though that it was all one continuous. Yeah. It's 2 fretboards, but it's really one neck.
Right.
Until you showed me the back of it.
Right. And the next model they released is actually a little smaller and lighter. Now you're going to lose maybe a little bit of tone, but you know how it is with guitar. Same thing. I got this nice travel guitar, and then you put it up next against your Strat, and ooh. But smaller and lighter is always better. I mean, but I know that when there's time and you got to fritter away and maybe not be texting or maybe not be doing something that really indulges another skill set and craft, that's what I wanted to do.
Right, that's very cool.
For the
What's
guitar,
the name of the company?
I was going to say that's what I was going to ask.
FM Guitars.
FM Guitars.
Felix Martin.
Very cool. Very cool. So when you're doing your regular gigs, do you have a certain rig that you go to all the time?
So I've been going back and forth between DV Mark amps. This is a little jazz amp. This is such a percussive, loud little amp. It's good for jazz, but I've plugged my Kemper into it. Mm-hmm. I also use an Axe Effects. DV Mark used to make, I have a multi-amp at DV Mark. Sounds amazing. That's been out for a while, but I don't use that anymore because that requires using a cab. We're using either the Axe Effects or the Kemper straight into the PA, maybe with a wedge as a monitor. I still need a little air moving. I know that everybody's doing the in-ears, but for a guitar player, unless you're doing a TV show or you're around a setting like church where you can't make that noise, I think if you're going to play rock, you still need some air moving. So if not a cab, a monitor.
I like the idea of the monitor.
Yeah.
I was just looking into a company, I think it's called Headrush.
Yeah.
They had a 2,000 watt powered monitor just for guitar.
Right. Good affordable monitor.
I think it was like $399, $499. I was like, wow. So you walk up to the gig, you got your Kemper in your bag, your guitar, you lay your monitor down, you plug it in, you give your feed to the sound guy, you're done.
We need to share this with my guitar players. that sounds like a great idea. They actually make a monitor. It's like it's a guitar speaker.
I would say, though, to find that happy medium, Jimmy, if you're going to do this, what I've been doing at the Hard Rock, because the Hard Rock still has a Fender Twin, and you find that in every cruise ship, every house, corporate gig will have one of those. Yeah. And we all, if you've seen that recent documentary talking about Marshalls, hey, we wanted a Fender, but we wanted this. And it started as what it became a Fender, became the Marshall head. I've been running the Kemper into the Fender Twin at a low volume. I mean, the Twins on 4 or 5, that's not loud in my book.
Right.
I've been getting the best authentic, gooey, chewy, saggy tone out of that amp as a monitor, but the Kemper is supplying in front of a house. Right. And the sound engineer prefers that over any other amp I bought in. And I prefer that over a wedge because it's a nice, lightweight jazz amp that you can kick off the stage when you don't need it and then put it back. And in a rock band setting, that's been my favorite.
Rather than
in a wedge, because if you don't have a wedge, because sometimes the wedge starts sounding artificial too. No matter how good the front of house is, I don't taste it. It's like, why are you gonna eat? It's like when you're sick and you're trying to eat, like, I can't taste it, and you don't want coffee.
Right.
That's what we play guitar for. You want to hit the chord, and you want to be like, yeah. I mean, there's no reason to play music other than that. It's
Right.
like when you play in church and you're playing trumpet, you got to hit the back of that wall, and you got to feel, the spirit coming over you. You're not just playing notes. So
but
right.
sometimes depending on that monitor can affect everybody. That's the problem. You know what I'm saying? It all sounds good to have your own monitor, but not when you're cranking it at a band shell or a festival and the rest of the band is going, oh my God, where is that coming from?
Look,
it's not coming from the amp, it's coming from the monitor.
We mentioned this in the last segment. This is the part about, I wish somebody had sat me down earlier and said, listen, there's one or two guys in the band running the business. You're not friends. Don't hang with each other. It's a waste of time. Let the business. Instead, you end up like going to games together and going to strip clubs together or whatever it is you do together, and that wastes time, and then you end up fighting. So somebody needs to tell guitar players, you don't need to play that loud. You need a nice, warm stereo sound like stereo monitors in a studio that you can appreciate. Eric Johnson did this. He had two loud Marshalls. He would face them on the wall, which you all know the story, and so nobody could hear him. He would take mics and mic them, and he would listen to these beautiful JBLs, and he was hearing like a stereo. So he had to figure it out.
Right.
If you're playing loud in some club like an arena, then it's never wrong time or wrong age to go back and retool your thinking. You can get that feeling without having to kill the singer, or the audience.
We did some backline gigs. We had one band in particular. They, we would bring extra amps at no cost because we just wanted to have great service. So if they had a 68 twin or whatever, and they always seem to have deluxe reverbs, right?
Of course.
We'd always bring a spare at least of every amp. So we did this one show, and the guitar player was so adamant about us laying it on its back on the stage. And I went, no, there's no way, man. It's going to heat up. No. Brent Mason does it. I went, I don't think Brent Mason lays it on the thing. No, man. It's the way it's got to be, because the keyboard player in the band, because of his volume, she did not want to hear the guitar like that.
Oh, did you say she?
You'll still never figure it out.
Okay, keep going.
So anyway, freak. So anyway, we propped the amp up the best we could. And then I said, just in case, let's take the spare and put it down there. We did the same thing with the spare. Sure enough, we got it turned on. It's working great. Everything is perfect. About 45 minutes in, amp goes down. Look at the tubes. It's like fire hot.
Wow.
Like there's a forest fire back there. Plug in the other one. We try to prop the amp back up a little more. The other amp cools down. Take it off stage. Turn it back on. They're going back up to do some more sound check. Same thing. Finally, I sent my brother back to the shop. I said, you're going to have to go get another one. I don't have any amps left. We finally get the other amp back on, and it's working. And the moral of the story is, I was like, man, there's got to be a better way. Why don't you just play through something else? Because you're going to fry amps. I mean, the guy felt horrible, but we wound up having to prop it up a little bit. So at least I put a fan under it, and it worked for the show. But stage volume, like we started the episode with, stage volume, they facing the amp straight up in the air.
Never heard of that.
Never heard of
Until
that
now.
I heard him facing at you.
Nope.
Like, there's some there's a couple good local guitar players. They have the amp facing at you. I thought it was kind of brilliant. This way you're only the one hearing it. It's not affecting the band too much, but it's not bleeding through the front. You know what I'm saying? That could be anytime someone goes and listens to a band and you're sitting on the right side and you're just hearing this, but you're not hearing everything else, and you go to the left side, you're hearing this. But do you hear that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's a trick to it.
It doesn't sound mixed correctly either. It's right. I saw Pat Metheny, and this inspired me a lot to do stuff like this. I guess it was more recently. He was doing a tour by himself with a beautiful Bose system, two of them playing. And Pat Metheny's stuff sounds new age-ish. It's not jazz at all. And I'm like, that is so beautiful and ambient and powerful. and it sounds mixed and sounds like the record. He's playing his own record. And I thought that's the way to go.
Right.
You know, it's not the type of music. It's with any music. It should be balanced and beautiful and warm and like a stereo system. It takes a lot of years to master that skill set too, to be able to do that. But the technology is here to do it. It's never a better time than ever to know how to do that.
So when you do, let's say, okay, you got your gigs scheduled. I'm sure you got gigs booked out months and months in advance. So let's say, for instance, you're going to go do your ABBA gig. So you kind of know you're going to do the same rig, the same thing, same setup, Kemper, whatever it is that you use at every single show. You already know what guitar you're bringing. So what is it that usually it's like for the ABBA? Would it be, you know, a Les Paul or your Palmer or whatever it may be? Is it different guitars for different shows? And how's that work?
I used to try to think that way, but I stopped doing that because ABBA is a 60s, 70s thing or 70s doesn't mean I need a Les Paul. I know that that's part of it. I started taking the same guitar. I use a Kiesel guitar, which has got a very high radius.
What kind of guitar is that?
Kiesel.
A Kiesel.
Which used to be Carvin.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Oh, okay.
And Kiesel is one of the companies I like to work with because they really listen to what you want. And you can make your own guitar look like what you want. You don't have like an Ibanez that 10 other people are going to have in the next venue. The only guitars I'm true to are for the Van Halen tribute. And I'm also doubling on keyboards and ABBA. I'm literally playing just like this instrument. You know, you can think two brains like a piano player. You can do keys and guitar. I'm playing keys with one hand and playing guitar with the other. Mm-hmm. And so I went with a guitar that's more comfortable to me rather than I'm going to do a Les Paul for this gig or Strat for this gig.
Right.
And even though I know you see a lot of people doing that, one or two guitars is all you need.
I agree.
So same guitar, pretty much. It's your number one. We call it 1, 2, and
number
3.
One, yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah.
That goes to pretty much all your gigs, other than the Van Halen thing.
Yeah, you say, hey, we're going to do some Frampton. I'm probably going to bring that guitar. You know, is it a crime too? Maybe. You know, but to this tribute thing, well, you got to have the hair or the guitar or the shirt. I never thought about that kind of stuff. It's what I can play.
Well, what's comfortable, what you can play, what you feel good.
Yeah.
What do you put in your hands? What guitar you put in your hands? I have a Frankenstein, dude, that I bought in 1986 for $300, I think, from Doug Shaw. It's a company, I believe they used to be in upstate New York called Dobrovich, made the neck. It's a strap body with a Floyd Rose. I got Seymour Duncan's in it now. I think it was a heavy metal guitar, really. It had EMGs in it. Do you know that all the guitars I have, that is my workhorse? You'd look at it and go, what the hell is that thing?
Did we ever see it at Marquee?
Maybe. I mean, when I was playing out, that's all I played. I had like Les Paul, Strats, that. I never played them.
Man, that's why I disagree with some of this YouTube culture. I noticed that and a lot of things, it's good to hear a Les Paul, Strat, and whatever guitars people are going to buy. I see them with their room full of amps and Les Pauls playing through an effect. But I'm like, I don't play that. That's not what I'm going to play. So it's not really a fair assessment. When you talk to every other musician, this is my car. It's a Volkswagen with the souped up. And that's really what I drive, not this Mercedes that you want me to endorse. Or this is what I really play. The one guitar that does it all.
So it's pretty simple then.
Yeah.
It's not as complex as you think. I thought with different bands, you bring different rigging, but you know what? If something works, you just go with it. Same thing with my guys. My guys are all old school, but you know, there's the Les Paul. It's the tube amp. And
this group that I play in Miami, Blue Road Records studio artist, they have some traditional guitars. We were a motley crew of blues singers and Latin players and singers. And I showed up starting to think, well, I got to play like this. And the heck of it. I bought my green guitar in green, you know.
I know that guitar.
Yeah. And the girl, Rochelle Koba, you probably know her from the blues scene, goes, green. I go, yeah, my green guitar. I don't want to play the blues. She's like, oh, that's a great song. And then it became accepted, you know. Best sounding, best playing guitar I have. For that stuff.
I see a lot of your videos with that guitar. Or I've seen a lot of videos.
I get a white guitar and I'm like, oh my God. And then I get this is the only one that looks traditional. The only one. And then I'm like, yeah, pink and black and green and spots. Yeah, it's polka dots.
Are most of those guitars that I see in your videos all the Kiesels?
I've been using them almost exclusively for many years. I do have a couple of ESPs, a couple that I painted, one that Lita Ford got to play because she flew into this gig we did, and all her stuff got left behind at the airport.
Oh.
And this is up at Destination Daytona, and we're running around goofing off on the tour bus. He's like, hey, look at the tour bus. And then we come back and I see Lita with my pink guitar. I'm like, wow, and she's like, I love this guitar. I'm like, so that's the Lita Ford pink ESP, if you've seen that one. And I was playing chicken picking on it in one video for fun. So yeah, that a couple ESPs and then the Kiesels and then of course the EVH guitars. I'd say that's a good deal. If you're going to be in a good rock cover band, I've found the EVH stuff consistent. Right. I think that's the new Les Paul. Where everybody had to have a Les Paul. You can get a EVH standard for $800. They sound great. Yeah. As far as a good,
and they all come with the Floyd Rhodes, right?
Yeah. As far as the Wolfgang though, that's not the Wolfgang.
Wolfgang. Yeah. As far as a good chunky guitar that has a drop tuning, if you need to do drop tuning, I can't find any fault with them for that price.
Mm-hmm. So you have one then? You have one or two? You have one?
Yeah, I have one that I spray painted and made it look like Eddie Van Halen.
But is that the one you use for those gigs?
Yeah, I use an EVH Frankenstein. Again, they're all painted. I painted them because you can go
buy. You
did
the striping? You did that?
Mark Funk did the striping on one of them.
Mark Funk, I know that name.
Yeah, I know Mark.
Mark Funk paints guitars, and he's a luthier, builds his own line of guitars, and he's accessible because he's in North Miami, or he's not far from.
I used to book him. I can't remember the name of the band.
Yeah, he's a great guitar player, great musician, great guy, and then does all his luthier work now. But I bought the Eddie Van Halen guitar for like $500. I'm like, I'm just going to paint it because if you go buy the one, Guitar Center right now, buy about $1,700-$800. That's a guitar, an amp, and some cables and strings.
Right.
So yeah.
So do you have any social media stuff you want to shout out to have people like check you out on your videos? I love watching your videos. Like I said, some of them I start watching, I just sit there and I go, I can't do that. Don't.
Just stop. Oh.
I'm serious, dude. Have you ever sat and watched them?
It's important. You can find me on Facebook, Brev Sullivan Guitar, YouTube, Brev Sullivan Guitar, Instagram, all Brev Sullivan Guitar. So any of those suffixes with Brev Sullivan Guitar, I can find. It's very competitive right now. A lot of that stuff is to expand my digital footprint,
Right.
But most people will knock it, hey, that's not a song. I'm like, dude, that's 30 seconds of a solo. But if you don't put the solo up there, nobody's going to hit on one or two notes.
Your verse.
What a good tone. Wow, no, what a great one.
Honestly, I wanted you to mention it because people, I know you have a lot of followers, but people that maybe don't know who you are, they become followers by, going on and checking out what you do,
The one thing that you have to do is just be yourself. Right now, there's actually a bigger demand for female guitar players. Companies want them to represent, and that just happens to be a thing. The girls are having their say right now, and they want them in their band, probably because they can outthink, a dude in 20 steps, and so that's getting the job done, which I agree with. However, I've been pursuing my jazz career because of my dad, but I don't like the jazz lifestyle. So, for instance, I'm going to do a video and I'm going to stick the 80s in your face as long as I can because that's an authentic tribute to something that is hard to find now.
Right.
Picking up a guitar and playing it great is just part of it. Singing on stage is just part of it. You got to sell the whole image. So for everybody who comes to the page that's in love with that genre, the 80s genre, the rock star genre, that seems to be resonating with them more than just, hey, that's some great chops.
Right.
And so if that's important to them, like George Lynch is that guy too. He brings that, hey man, this is George Lynch, I'm going to shred. And that's just what people like. I'm going to deliver that too in this package.
Do you have one that's specifically for the jazz stuff?
Now, I do have something I want to talk about. For the jazz, I have to thank Blue Road Records, my family in Miami, for this CD because when my father left this planet, it's heartbreaking, but the bigger part, the harder embrace is that he left so many musical families behind. He was everywhere, man. He was in Chicago. He was in the Northwest. He was overseas. And they all, Ira Sullivan.
Right.
So I chose to embrace that memory of it. Well, the music needs to continue. And so we went on the radio. The whole family was sitting around the fire the next day after my father passed away. And I said this because we're all locked down. I'm like, this is even worse. And then we lost Eddie Van Halen 2 weeks later. It's like, this is unreal. You can't even put your head around it. So
Right.
my boss at Blue Road Records said, we're going to do a tribute to your pop. So we did the CD, and this is as real as it gets. He's not here anymore to tell us what to do. I had to tell these cats how to play his music. Talk about growing up.
Right.
You know, and I'm going to practice. Like, no, we don't practice, because he wouldn't do that. He would put you on stage just like the old cats did. He'd be like, let's play. And you might have learned Stella by Starlight in E flat. He'd call it in D or C. And like, all of a sudden, all that stuff you memorized was gone. And so
Right.
there's my dad looking at some post-grad university student with chops from hell, and they're like, they can't play. So he wasn't mean or disingenuous. He just wanted to try him out. So we do this one tune in Chicago, and it took me 5 years to get it, called I Get a Kick Out of You. And that's how he'd try his drummers out. And it was this fast. Drum solo. And the drummer would take a solo for the whole chorus. And that means you had to come back in on the next chorus counting. So talk about something totally... Jazz is the opposite of rock. So thank you to Blue Road Records for producing that album back in 2020. And this got to not only do something nice for my family and legacy, but get me a chance to play a authentic jazz project. And you can see this on Amazon, or you can go to Spotify. If you type in Monday's Dance on Monday's Dance, Blue Road Records, it's a lot to remember. But any jazz fans out there, or any fans of guitar playing, this will be the CD to get.
Very cool.
Tribute to Ira.
Monday's fan.
This one, the CD is Ira, the tribute album, but the digital, that's another thing that's driving me nuts. The digital makes you title your CD a certain way. So that's called Monday's Dance, a tribute.
Gotcha.
Let's talk a little bit more about your dad, because I know that one thing you haven't mentioned is that you've done several shows with him. Well, right? Or how did that work? Because I know you were doing shows with him as well.
Yeah, when I left the 80s act, that was, and you know how it is with acts, frustration, money, the road, you know, everybody's going for that jugular. Right. Something which tells you this is not right. So I literally was out of the band, and the next day was on a radio show with Tracy Fields and my dad. I really wanted to spend more time with him. He's getting up there, and I really wanted to do something different. So we're in the interview, and I'm looking over at my dad, and I'm like, I did make the right decision. This is where I want to be. And the next thing, I was on stage with him playing, and I had to really learn the vocabulary of jazz. You can play it, you can study it, but until you're on stage with somebody like that, you're not playing it. So over the next 5 years, between local gigs here and the jazz showcase, I got to really stretch out and really learn to play and play. Another endearing thing is that I have a tune called Espresso Bueno, which is more of a pop contemporary jazz thing. He would play that, and it was a crowd favorite because it's more of a Latin catchy groove thing. Right. And what a proud moment. And he'd get on there and he'd brag about the Rock of Ages. I'd be like, no, don't talk about that. But it took a long time. It's like one of these movies, like one of these Hallmark movies where the families, you know, at each other's throats. And then all of a sudden, hey, this is what Christmas is all about. They reunite. Right. He didn't acknowledge anything I did for many years because, well, I was in Iraq and that's not his thing. You know, that's 1/50th of what it takes to play what he played. And then when I started hanging out with him and studying jazz and it's serious, I'm like, I think I got the endorsement. Right. Especially when he played that tune. I think he was proud.
So his approval was important to you.
Yeah. Right. But I wanted to share the CD more about, hey, I didn't play this jazz CD with my dad. I wanted to share that in 2020, we lost so much. And you have two choices: to reinvent yourself, sometimes monthly, sometimes every 6 months, sometimes every years. Like these actors that, like Tom Cruise, that does the method acting. He goes in there like a newbie. I got to learn what they do and learn what to make this movie work, and never take anything for granted. And what I had to go through, and we all had to go through to do this, to achieve. So I wanted to bring that up. So know that there's something out there for you to embrace and achieve that you haven't become yet at any age. Right. And it's out there waiting for you, but you have to be ready for it and you have to work hard for it.
Great stuff, man. Great stuff. Thank you. I definitely check out the record for sure.
Oh, there you go.
If you guys have a CD player, you can have a copy of this.
You know what?
If you still have one.
I'll find my boombox.
All right.
Let's show this. Which camera?
You know what?
You know what? I'm going to put a link
I just want to mess with my phone.
Okay, fair enough. That seems to be where everybody finds
Man,
it.
that's awesome, man.
You know, the cat that played drums on here, great drummer.
Yeah.
This is another one. Kevin Abanto played all the rhythm on the Beat Buddy pedal. So if you go in and you go through what knocks me about that pedal is not just, hey, it's a drum machine, you got these beats, the Latin percussion, he does the mambo, I didn't even know all these styles, the rumba, everything he did all the percussion for that.
For the pedal?
Yeah, I remember they're taking the drummer that did that, Goran Rista, it's a studio in Miami, he did all the beats from metal to swing to jazz or whatever, and then it's sampled in a MIDI, and then the MIDI triggers it just like a trigger in a program. So the guy that did the Latin percussion is Kevin. I didn't know years later I'd meet him. And he's the steady drummer in that studio. There's two bands that meet. One more of a quartet with myself and Crystal and the owner and Kevin. And then the other guys, it's a Latin bass player, Venezuelan keyboard and sax player. And then when we do shows, the band unites.
Right.
We haven't done any shows though, because since COVID, I kind of busted the live production with that studio. It's more of a recording thing. But they're involved in WDNA, which is Miami only. If you ever heard of WDNA, that's only reaches as far as North Miami. And they're independent. They take grants and donations. And they play a lot of jazz and it's like WLRN, like public radio, but they have the national syndicated. And she came in and said, we're going to do this tribute. So what a gift, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
You did a great job. By the way, Jason Sudoway, everybody. Let's have a hand for Jason Sudoway.
Jay Money, Jay
Keith
Bird.
Ridenour, Brev Sullivan. How about Brev, everybody?
Check out his
Brev,
stuff.
Great job. Sound check with Ridenour Robinette.